All right, let's see what this video is.
This is bullshit. We know it, all right? We do not need to be having literature that's showing boys how to suck.
So a sixth grader confronts school board by reading an LGBTQ sexual
This
material
book
found
was on a
inside
stand.
book
I'd like
at
to
his
read
middle
you a
school
page.
library.
He's undoing my belt. I'm reaching into his bedside drawer for a condom. It reminds me so much of the first time we had sex. We were both f***ing terrified, and the whole thing was kind of terrible because we didn't know what we were doing. Now, this book was at my middle school, and it was on a stand. When I rented it out to show my dad it, the librarian asked if I wanted more and if I wanted a graphic novel version.
So that's my son.
Wow.
Okay.
11 years old. I don't care whether it's
I've
gay,
seen enough
straight,
like that. That was pretty,
bisexual, whatever the terms are for all this stuff, doesn't need to be at our school. As far as genderqueer.
Wow, okay. So that is pretty intense just watching that. It's a sixth grader, 11 years old, who's reading this really explicit material, looking at some really explicit material, reading some really explicit material that I guess was on offer at his library. And he said that when he borrowed the book, the librarian asked him if he wanted more and if he wanted a graphic novel to go with it. This is just one of those things that kids shouldn't be exposed to, you know? And you know, he's a little bit older. He's 11 years old, right? And so, you know, he's not in that really early impressionable stage, but he's still only 11 years old. And it's pretty powerful, or I don't know if powerful is the right word, but it's definitely a shock. Is hearing an 11-year-old read this material, because it just shows, hey, listen, this is what you're exposing children to. Now, think about this. If this were a child being shown a video of the things that he was just describing in this book that he was reading, that would be really messed up, right? I think everybody could agree he should not be involved in those acts. He should not be watching any videos like that. And yet these books are on display. The only thing I can really say to this is get your kids out of school. Get your kids out of school. Because the school does not care. It's really obvious. The school does not care about, because, okay, another thing, I've seen a dozen of videos like this. Generally, it's with the parents. This is the first one where I've seen the child actually reading from the book itself, right? But I've definitely seen a dozen of videos where parents are presenting to the school board, I don't want these books in our school. The school does not care. The district does not care. Like, you're still putting your kid in school. Hey, they're still getting their funding. They don't care. So you have to pull your kid out of school and keep them out of school. And I'm not saying that as like to get the school to do what you want. I'm saying you need to take responsibility for your child and their education. And the best way to do that is to take them out of school and educate them yourself and make sure that they have everything that they need as far as their ability to understand the world around them and their ability to learn, really, right? And that's something that can be done simply, very simply at home. You do, like, I think it should be really obvious to a lot of parents at this point, you do not need to put your kid in school to learn things because they're not learning anything at the school anyway, or they're not learning the things you want them to learn anyway, right? And I mention this all the time, but it needs to be said. New York Times put out an article. 2/3 of students are not reading at grade level. 2/3 of students are not doing math at grade level, right? And so I'm just bringing that up because that's 66%. Only a third of students are reading at grade level or doing math at grade level. It's either or, because the overlap is less than a third. It's for sure less than a third, right? And so less than a third of students are able to read and do math at grade level. Less than a third can just read at grade level. Less than a third can just do math at grade level. Okay, that's huge. You need to be aware of that, because the only reason that you would keep your kid in school is because you're too busy to teach them at home because you're working, and both you and your wife are working, which is unfortunate. So that means either you have to make more money so that your wife can be home with the kids, or you need to figure something else out where you can actually be there for your children and spend more time with your children. And to be set on that point of you're not spending time with your children literally 6 or 8 hours a day, your child is under the guidance of some other people who clearly do not care as far as what you want for their instruction and all. They don't care, because they're putting this stuff in front of it. It would be like you drop your kid off with someone, and your kid comes home and your kid is now like cursing up a storm. They were telling you about all the explicit things that they were watching on TV and all this, and you're like, hey, that is adult content. I don't think that I should have to tell you not to do that stuff around my child, you know? And you're influencing my child, and the person's like, oh, sorry, my bad. And then the next day they're doing even worse, you know? And so that's exactly what you're getting at school. It's not because like obviously they know better. Obviously they know better than to put this stuff in. They know what they're doing. It's not just like a oopsie. It's a legit, they're doing this on purpose, right? And so it's up to you to do something about it. And the something about it is bring your kids home to educate them, and make sure you're educating them in the best way. And if you want to know more about that, send me a message, because we can definitely make that happen, right? But it's not that hard. It really isn't that hard. Share this with somebody who needs to see it.